We're sitting here at Amuro. It's nice to have people be able to see the experience and almost feel like they're involved in it. Is that part of maybe what draws you to a good restaurant like this?
I think it's the people, to be fair. They're always so hospitable when I've come in. Coming back here sort of reminds me of going to Japan as well. You can't go there every weekend, but you can come here. So that's a good shout.
Let's kind of take it a bit more personal. What was the motivation and what kept you going that entire time?
I always remember just the people that have put so much time and effort into me. At times where I've always felt like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, or I've had enough. I don't want to let those people down.
Today we're here with Chef Stuart. We're going to be doing a little deep dive into his favourite places in Sydney, food, drinks. We're starting off in Darlinghurst here at Amuro. It's a beautiful little 20-seater Japanese sake and a never-evolving, in the opposite sense, food menu that happens. So this is one of Chef Stuart's favourite places. So he's going to take us inside. We're going to get to know him, why he loves this venue so much, and rock and roll. We're going to have a good time. We're sitting here at Amuro, countertop, right? It's part of the experience here. It's a beautiful customer service, the attentiveness to the detail of the food that you get to experience as a guest, which is the beautiful part, especially with AN.Told being an open kitchen, for example. It's nice to have people be able to see the experience and almost feel like they're involved in it. Is that part of maybe what draws you to a good restaurant like this, Amuro in Darlinghurst?
I think it's the people, to be fair. They're always so hospitable when I've come in every time. I remember maybe must have been like a year and a half ago, one of the apprentices, it was his birthday. He was very excited that I'd come in. I was like, okay, cool. And we ended up down in having Korean barbecue that night for his birthday.
Oh, really?
They invited me along. I was like, yeah, sure. So
that's nice.
I mean, that's the warmth of the hospitality industry as well, just being part of the industry.
So tell me a bit more about what keeps you coming back on top of that warmth. What is it that maybe you could take away from your guest experience here that maybe you want to apply for yourself?
What makes me keep coming back, I would say, would be just the fact, it sort of feels like Japan being here, you know what I mean? I think after I'd gone to Japan 3 years ago, that feeling of just sitting in a small, tight-knit little bar with great food was heartwarming. So coming back here sort of reminds me of going to Japan as well. You can't go there every weekend, but you can come there every weekend. So that's a good shout.
Yeah. Well, what is it about the culture that you're drawn to?
I loved it in Japan. Just people are so friendly, so welcoming. The food is amazing over there. I don't think you can have a bad meal. I don't think it's possible. If you're having a bad meal, you're probably in a tourist hotspot, and that's why it's a bad meal. Otherwise, all the small little restaurants are so cool. All the little bars as well. Even when I was in Kyoto, it was such an amazing experience. So, that's the point of being able to find little spots like this around Sydney. Yeah. Little places that need to be talked about more often, actually.
Now, I'm curious as a chef, this is going to be a very specific question. And I only ask because I started to find this within myself, was the base flavors, right, in which I cook from to build dishes from. Take, for example, I spent a good 1.5 to 2 years understanding different Asian flavors and using that as the base of where I create a dish, instead of going maybe the French route or, do you know what I mean? So there's obviously differences in which you build flavor blocks.
Yeah.
Now that you've worked a lot in both with a lot of French building blocks, but you've got now a lot of appreciation for Japanese, do you find yourself wanting to maybe combine both and using that as a way to build a dish and take influences from each other?
I mean, something like when I worked at Franson, that's a great mix between the fusion of cuisines in a way where there's a lot of Japanese influence into Scandinavia. So I think not really talked about the same way it used to be, fusion cuisine, but a lot of restaurants take a lot of inspiration from different cuisines and put them together. I think when I was in Scandinavia, Scandinavia and Japanese food, they have very similar in a sense. Very clean, precise flavors. I find that I do have that sort of influence from Asia and traveling through Asia as well. I think at a point when I have my own place, you'll start to see that more. Obviously now we cook to a certain style, but once, I'll find my own art form once I do my own thing.
Do you think you're ever going to do any pop-ups or anything like that to kind of bridge the gap, or when are you going to step out of Encore? People want to see the real you,
Yeah, maybe not pop-ups. I mean, I do.
I've got a PS40 just once.
Yeah. I think maybe not pop-ups, but I do like the sense of doing four-hands dinners, and I hope to do a lot of them when I eventually do my own thing, is to be able to bring a lot of. There's so many people I meet internationally that want to come to Sydney, and I hope to be able to do that at some point, bring those people over and be able to show them what an amazing country and the food that we have over here and the produce as well is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. let's kind of take it a bit more personal. So let's dive in a bit about.
Let's go deep, yeah.
Let's go real deep. Yeah, real deep, man. No, I mean, why not? Like, I'm curious about. I mean, you've talked a lot about how you started chefing, so I don't want to get into that. It's more just about the main motivations of why you started and what's kept you going that entire time. Because I think that's an important thing to understand that can often break the difference between the people that last and don't. Because I think if that initial love of that motivation, like what is that? Not just how you got started or why, but what was the motivation and what kept you going that entire time?
You want to go deep? I mean, like, I grew up with a single mum, so she taught me really young that you had to work hard to get anywhere in life, and that not things aren't given to you. And I think I watched her go through adversity, and she raised 2 young boys, and here we are today. My brother does well in his job, and I've done okay, I guess. And so in that sense, like, what keeps driving me is like so many. I always remember there's been times where I've wanted to quit this industry, without a doubt. Like, it's hard. There's long hours. Your social life, your personal life can be upheaved because of how many hours you're doing. But I think I always remember just the people that have put so much time and effort into me. If I start from just the little boy I was when I was 14, washing dishes in a little cafe in Oklahoma, New Zealand. The couple that the gentleman was in his 70s and still working, and so they gave me that opportunity. Then I was picked up by a guy called Huey Blues, and he mentored me and got me overseas. Josh Emmett was my first boss in Melbourne, and he still mentors me to this day. Mm-hmm. When I went to London, it was Matt Abbey and it was Claire Smith and many other people also around us that like inspired me. So I think at times where like I've always felt like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, or I've had enough. Like I don't want to let those people down. I feel like they're that fuel. They've invested so much in me that I should go on to do something with my life and with my career. But I also find now at the point of being a manager, I also get to see that opportunity to invest in others. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of people that come through the kitchen, and it's hard when you've got a big team. It's hard to put a lot of like effort into so many different people. But there's those people, those little shining lights that you see in the team that you want to invest more time and more effort into, and you want to see them grow. I think a big thing for that I've always tried to do, especially at Encore, is like understand if someone's been with me 2-3 years and they've done their time, you want to get them out of there. You want to move them overseas and sit down and ask them what they want to achieve with their life and try to give them the fuel and the inspiration and the motivation to go and do something. So I think those are always been my deciding factors, is like so many people invested in me, and now I'm having the opportunity to invest in others. And that's that point about turning up every day and overcoming hard days. You just have to turn up and get on with it, and it's not going to be hard, but adversity is great.
Yeah.
It really teaches you a lot.
Just want to kind of touch back onto that early moments, kind of growing into it. So I remember you talking about how you've got raised by a single mum. Is that the kind of beginning force that kind of bred that fire to make her proud, to make her understand that she did an incredible job? It's really at the core of it that you can do her proud by doing well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my mum was always like, we were always cooking at home with her.
Yeah.
So that she was always, I guess, an inspiration on that side of things. She gave you the basic skills of life to like fend for yourself and eat for yourself,
Yeah.
So yeah, working hard. Also just setting myself up for, if I have a family one day, I want to be, set myself up securely and so that my children can have a good upbringing. So that's always something that fuels me to, I guess I sort of want to get it out of the way in regards to the restaurant side of things. I want to have a successful restaurant and all that up and running at some point, so that if the opportunity comes that I have a family, I can be a good father. But you also want to be able to create something for yourself and for your team so that they can be inspired. In the same way for your children, I guess, you want to inspire them as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people that have inspired me to get to where I am now, and it's half the reason why I haven't quit.
It's not a topic that's often really talked about of people with families going through hospitality. So it's kind of good to touch on it, I suppose, and for people that have been raised by single parents that have had to work multiple jobs to raise children, but it's not something you talk about a lot as a chef or as chefs trying to have a family along that side, because it can be quite enduring.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, I think the hardest thing is actually for females, for sure. I see it a lot. Like I've had so many great girls come through the kitchen at Encore, and they're still doing great things, but they often find themselves in the point where they have to decide, do they want a family or do they want to pursue their career as far as possible? So that's always, you want to be able to give them the support and the foundation to be able to do both.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a change that's happening in that industry.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways for, like, as a male as well as a chef, you want to be able to take your kids to football on the weekends and all that sort of stuff. So trying to find that balance is always going to be, it will be a cycle that will forever be hard to.
I want to touch on some points throughout your career. So you've talked a little about working at 11 Madison Park, Franson, Core. What were some of the defining points of those moments working at those restaurants that helped maybe change the way you worked, maybe gave you, I guess, some inspiration in terms of where you wanted to go as a chef and how you wanted to cook? And then also, I guess, what kept you going? Were there moments where you're like, oh, this is a good reminder that I'm on the right path?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky in my career to work like every place that I've always been in. I seem to have always been there at its peak. You know, when I was with Claire at Restaurant Gordon Ramsay, she won Chef of the Year. She also won. We won like best restaurants in the UK.
Yep.
When I was at 11 Madison Park, we won the world's 50 best.
Yeah, I heard you jumped on when they were going through the renovations, right?
Yes, exactly. And then when I was at Franson, it was like we were some of the highest in the list. We were winning the OAD. Bjorn was best chef in the world, sort of thing. So always been in the right spot at the right time. But you just got to let life play itself out.
Yeah.
I think all three have taught me something different. Definitely Restaurant Gordon Ramsay and doing those big hours, those big long weeks, was a great foundation to learn how to cook. Repetition. And the only way you're ever going to get better at something is just repeating. And when you're doing 5 doubles a week, how can you not get better?
Yeah.
You know, if you're just repeating the same process over and over again. So I think that set myself up for a foundation of being able to cook, which is important. A lot of people can't do that these days. I think 11 Madison Park was very much about learning how to manage a big team, which has really come into play now, and learning how to have an AM team, a PM team, multiple service teams, a lot of covers. It's really helped me on the management side of being able to see that you also, I think a big thing of going through a lot of different restaurants is actually showing you that there's multiple ways to do something. There's multiple ways to skin a fish, so you can do things different ways. You don't have to be locked in one way. I think sometimes people come a little bit, if you stay in one restaurant for too long, you become institutionalized. If you spend 20 years in one place, you have no idea how to do something differently, which, in this day and age, you need to be able to think on your feet and be able to move really quickly. And then I think Franson really linked up the aspect of front of house and back of house. And I've said this so long with our team, is there is no front of house, there's no back of house, there just is the house. And if you really want to look after the guests, you're not worried about pouring water or anything like that. So
totally. All right, we got some food here. All right,
delicious.
Aki, you got to tell us about it. Here you go, you can have this.
So those three are my favorite. Tomato shiso, asparagus yuzu, and then 89 plus wagyu skewer.
Yeah,
delicious.
Really good.
Beautiful.
so much.
Thank you. One or two final questions, I guess. We talk a lot about leadership, right? So maybe you don't have the opportunity to give 60 people the time of day. Well, just not time of day. It sounds rude or disrespectful to say that, but it's not that you don't have 60 time to give 60
You can't give 30 minutes to every single member of staff.
Every day.
You've got 30 staff. Your week's going to be taken up by giving it to...
Yeah.
You're just going to be sat down in the office the whole day.
So, but if you could give maybe one or two pieces of advice, whether it be how they personally grow as a chef or as them being a chef, if we were to separate the two, because we just talked about potentially, like having kids and being a chef, and then also the journey of being a chef. So if we were to separate those two, what would be maybe some pieces of advice from your journey that you could give to the younger people starting out or people entering chefing?
Yeah, I mean, in regards to like leadership aspects, like I think there's like one key thing is don't take it personally. Realize like the difference between like when you've been given feedback and like how to take it on board and taking the knowledge. But then at the end of the day, if you have a bad service or something's gone wrong through the day, don't take it into the next day. I'm a big person of like whenever there's conflict at work or conflict happens. It's part of having passion actually.
Totally.
It means that there's a lot of people passionate about something.
Yeah.
And if you have a conflict, it actually means that you have an opinion. And having an opinion is not a bad thing.
It means you give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think at the end of the day, like for me, when there is conflict, I like it to be resolved on the day. There's times in the kitchen where like the guys have done something wrong and I've had to step in and say this, that, and the other.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, I'll always pull them aside before we go home at the end of the night and I'll have a discussion about what they did wrong, how to do it better, and all this sort of stuff. Because I don't like people going home after having a bad service or something's gone wrong during service and you let it sit in your head and rot. Like I want to be there to help take that weight off you, and you to be able to go home and go, okay, there's a lesson learned from the service. It's not the end of the world, and you know what? I'll come back tomorrow. I'll take the lesson and we'll go again, and we start fresh. I think the big thing for me is like every morning when I come into work, I give the guys a little fist pump, and every night when I go home, I give them a fist pump.
I love a good fist pump.
That's my punch in, my punch out. And so that's the big thing for me is just not taking things to heart and actually being able to see the black and white, see the detail, know what to take on board.
Beautiful. And is that what would be something maybe personal growth in connection with being a chef that maybe you found was struggling?
Personal growth? Oh, that's a bit tricky. I think, I guess I'm in a bit more of a privileged situation now with a bit more, I try to fill my weekends up a bit more of looking after myself,
Sure.
a bit more in the physical and also the mental sense. I think a lot of people don't look after their mental health. Everyone's so worried about how you look physically, but no one thinks about how you look mentally. If you're not looking after yourself mentally, how are you ever going to be able to do your job? So I think like actually training your mind as well is a big thing.
Yeah.
The same way you train your body. Because if you don't train your body, then you're not going to physically be able to do it. And if you don't train your mind, then you're going to get mentally unwell. So you need to be able to mix the two.
And this is going to be a completely like off the cuff question, but having worked at some of the best restaurants around the world, right? These three-headed venues, I'm curious, what were toughest parts? Or like what were some of the hardest parts that you found, especially early on? You obviously grow a lot of stamina the more you work at these venues and the more that you grow through the tough times, but potentially early on. So what were some of the tough times, and then what was the gratitude walking out of such a high regarded venue? And if you had maybe specific moments or specific examples in regard.
In those sort of venues, it's always like, it's a very much a sports sensei, like a mentality of you want to win. I don't know if you've ever watched Drive to Survive and that sort of stuff, like that mental attitude. And it's the same thing when you work in a high pressure kitchen, like that mental attitude of you go into every service wanting to deliver the best you can for your guests at the end of the day. And so it's that idea of it's a Champions League final every night. You have this mentality that you have to be on form.
Yeah.
You know, people spend a lot of money, they make all this travel. You know, it's an investment that people put into you. And so you want to make sure that you turn up each night and you give the best that you can for that guest.
Yeah.
I think when you do work in these environments that are high pressure, that are intense, and no one means it in any bad way, but you've just got to like, I think that's the first thing to learn, is to actually be able to handle it on the mental side of things.
Totally.
And be able to be like, okay, I need to get mentally fit, because everyone starts their job bad at it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it normally takes you 3 to 4 months to settle in, make friends, all that sort of stuff. You know, and I always say to my guys when they're wrapping up with me, is that nobody remembers you how you started your job, but everyone will remember you for how you finish your job.
Very true.
No, we all start crap when we start our job, but the way you finish and the attitude that you have as you leave a restaurant, that's really your CV that you leave behind for that restaurant to talk about you later.
I don't even know if I should be saying this on camera, but we just had some chef leave one of the restaurants with just such a sour attitude. But I don't even know if we should add this in, but I'm just going to say it because it's on my mind. And he was like signing invoices with swastikas on there. Oh, and I was like, he was so bitter. Don't put that in. It just came off my mind. And I was like, how bitter, you know? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, so it's like, and everyone was like, you know what, we would have been friends with you.
Yes.
And it had been parted professionally.
Yeah.
Despite the circumstances, but you carrying on like a sook just makes you look like an idiot. So no one likes it when you carry on like a sook. There you go. You can add that in. Just cut everything out.
Cut it out a bit.
Yeah. It was crazy. But anyway, he's off traveling.